Hey, Richard Bryce here, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I want to help you hit better one-handed backhand passing shots. And the way I'm going to do that is by showing you some of my practice, because this is something that I'm working on at the moment. Now, I'm naturally a right-handed player, but unfortunately, I separated my collarbone in a mountain bike crash, and now I'm having to relearn to play left-handed with the goal of becoming the best player that I can and hopefully competing on the Seniors ITF Tour. So I want to show you a little bit of my practice so I can explain the basic technique that you'll need to use, and then go into a little bit more detail about some of the key things that players find difficult when it comes to one-handed backhand passing shots. And I also want to spend a little bit of time at the end of the video talking about some things that you might need to work on off the court in order to be able to develop a high-level one-handed backhand. So hopefully you find the video helpful. If you do, it'd be awesome if you give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's much appreciated if you could do that as well. So let's start by looking at the basic technique, and like all shots we need a good preparation to start with, which means a good unit turn. So you can see here I've rotated my upper body, so now that my chest is pointing slightly back past, so it's past 90 degrees. You can see that I have a straight arm when I do this. Some players have a bent arm. There's no right or wrong, it's whatever works for you, but generally we're going to have the racket a little bit higher so then we can create leverage. So that's the first part of the preparation, but then the key is really going to be loading this back leg. So for me as a left-handed player, it's my right leg. If you're a right-handed player, it's going to be your left leg, because what we need to do is we need to drive through that left leg as we start the racket drop. So you can see I've gone from this position here. I'm now starting to drive through this back leg. As I do that, my racket is dropping down into this slot position here. So you can see for me, I've got it pointing towards the back fence, and this is the way that you'll do it if you've got the timing to make it happen, because this then allows you to pull the racket through and create more power. If you don't have the timing to do it, you might not be able to get it pointing towards the back fence. It might be pointing more towards the side fence like that. But for me, I pull it back into the slot position, and then I'm pulling it through. So I drive through the hip, a little bit of torso rotation, and then from there my arm pulls through and the contact point is going to be well out in front of the body, and that's really a key piece to it. So let's take another quick look at that. We've got the unit turn. So the upper body is rotating. I'm loading on this outside leg here, or back leg, and it's really important. All shots in tennis basically come from the back or outside leg, so that is what starts the drive. Here I'm pushing through this hip, so yes, I'm stepping onto my left leg, so I'm going to be loading through that, but I'm driving through the back hip to create the power. Then I've got the racket drop and then pulling it through to the contact. The follow through is just a result of momentum. You can see that my right leg then pivots through just to help slow me down and then allow me to return back to the center. Before we get to the next section, I just quickly want to let you know about a free footwork program that I've created to help you improve your game, because footwork is one of the biggest things that holds players back. So if you'd like the free program, I'll place a link to it up there, and I'll place a link to it down in the description so that you can start going through it. Now you understand the basic technique, let's talk about the two key pieces that tend to hold players back. The first one is going to be setting up in the right position and getting the right spacing. So we've already looked at what the preparation should look like in terms of the position, but then we've got to factor in where we are in relationship to the ball. So I've loaded my outside leg, I've got my unit turn position, I've got my racket up high, so I'm about to start driving through this hip. Look how far I am away from the ball. As I do that, obviously I'm moving quickly to the side to try and get in position. The ball is traveling in this direction, so you have to make the calculation of where you need to be, when do you need to start driving through this hip in order to make the timing work. And this is where the footwork piece is going to be so important, because you have to adjust your footwork based on the ball that you're dealing with and how far you are away. So you can see on this one, I've done a little bit of a drop step. I've got a shuffle just to create the space in there. So I'm looking at where the ball is. I'm kind of thinking about it. I've done a little bit of a shuffle, so then I can start to load my right leg the correct distance, so then I can drive into the shot. So I'm pushing through that right leg now. As I do that, that is allowing me to bring my racket down into the slot position and then pull through to contact. So that's the first key piece that you're going to need to get. Now let's take a look at the next key to hitting good passing shots, which is going to be the timing. And as you can see, I'm hitting two slightly different shots. I'm doing one where I'm trying to roll it cross court with a little bit more topspin, and then another one where I'm hitting it flatter and going down the line with a little bit more pace. Because I'm hitting them in different directions, the timing is going to change a little bit. So let's take a look at what that looks like from the side. So if we take a look at the timing from the side, you'll see it's slightly different for the cross court and down the line shot. For the cross court ball, I'm meeting it further out in front of the body. So if you kind of look how far this is from my body, then on the down the line shot, I'm hitting it a little bit further back in relationship to my body. So it's not much, but it's a little bit closer to my body. And this is going to be really important. The other piece that's going to be important is when you start to drive through that back or outside hip. So the big problem that you've got to solve to hit high quality strokes is the timing in terms of, okay, here's where the ball is. When do I start my swing? So for me, if I go back a little bit here, I'm still in the prepared position. I'm just about to start driving through my hip. The ball isn't even on screen yet, and I'm already driving through to create that slot position. So now the ball is coming there through to contact. So I have to drive through my hip at the right time, driving through this hip at the right time, followed by the torso to then pull me into the slot position and then bring the arm through to contact. And again, I have to time that on both different variations. So now with the down the line shot, so where is the ball? The ball is a little bit further through. It's a little bit closer to me because I'm a little bit later on contact relatively because it's going down the line and then through to contact. So that's the big piece that you have to solve and you have to make work. And that's one of the hardest things in tennis. And one other thing that I want to point out here is just the shape of the swing path. So that was a difficult one to deal with. Here, I'm in a slightly better position. So when I'm creating more topspin, I want you to look at what happens with the racket drop. So for the racket drop here, if you look at the angle of my racket, it's kind of pointing down a little bit in that direction. So in order to get topspin, I am dropping my racket head a little bit lower so then I can come up the back of the ball. Now it's shoulder external rotation that creates the topspin, and in order to get that shoulder external rotation, you have to internally rotate the shoulder here, drop the racket a little bit lower, so then I can hit up the back of the ball more. On the ball that goes down the line, you can see it's a slightly less steep racket drop. My racket isn't pointing down as much, it's pointing more backwards because I don't need to get as much topspin, so I'm not dropping the head and kind of coming up the back. I'm hitting more directly through the ball, so it changes the shape of the swing path. So I'll just show you those two again because it's a kind of subtle thing, but at the start you have to think through this. It doesn't happen like kind of automatically. You have to very consciously think through it. So because I'm still in that phase of learning, as I'm kind of moving towards the ball, I'm thinking about intentionally dropping that racket just a little bit lower so then I can come up the back of it, and here I'm thinking about pulling the contact through a little bit flatter. Obviously the timing changes on both of them, but the timing is the key piece to developing high quality strokes. And that's why, in addition to the on-court practice that I do, I spend a little bit of time off the court working on improving my eye-to-hand and my eye-to-foot coordination using brain-based training. So I do different exercises to train my visual system, so I've got good quality eye movements and I can track the ball effectively. Also so that I can judge distance and depth and read how far the ball is away, so that I can set up in the right position and get the optimal timing. And I also do work to improve my coordination so that I've got more control over my body. That helps to sequence the kinetic chain. It helps you to be able to adjust the timing and helps you to be able to control all of your shots more effectively. So if you'd like to learn how to do that, I've created a class that's going to teach you more about it. I'll place a link to the class up there, and I'll place a link to the class down in the description so that you can start going through it, because the technique is obviously important. You have to practice things in the right way, but you can only play at the level that your body will allow you to play. And when I was younger, I used to have all sorts of visual and coordination issues. So even when I was playing right-handed, there was a lot of shots that I couldn't hit. I was able to improve my right hand drastically by addressing some of these vision and coordination issues. And that's why now that I'm playing left-handed, I'm able to develop high-level technique relatively quickly because I've got the eye to hand and eye to foot coordination to be able to do it. So if you really want to take your game to the next level, it's something that I highly recommend that you investigate and potentially start working on. Okay, hopefully you have enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions or comments about what I've gone through here, I would love you to leave them down below. I'll get back to you as quick as I can, and I will catch you next time.